What's up, guys? Paul Churchill here with the Recovery Elevator podcast, coming to you from Oaxaca, Mexico. I'm on the rooftop of my shared co-work space doing this video. I'm taking Spanish lessons in the morning, and I'm working Recovery Elevator in the afternoon. It's awesome. Right when I hit record, I saw that bag right there flailing in the wind. I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit stop and take that away. Then I'm like, no, that's like the Beautiful Mind movie. That thing is awesome. Look at the clouds, the trees. This is a pretty good backdrop. Yeah, and I wish we could flip it right now. I've got my phone leaning up against a stone, and there's two old stools. Like, one of them could fall over at any time here. So this is Mexico. I absolutely love it. In fact, without alcohol, I'm seeing Mexico, it feels like for the very first time. The lens before when I was in Mexico was just like spring break. In fact, Kylie Minogue, Can't Get You Out of My Head, that was a song 2003. When I ended up in jail in a town called Rosarito, Mexico. This was my aperture, the lens, when I was here before. Now it's like this big. The plants, the foliage, the sunsets, the sunrises, the love in the people's heart. I mean, there is so much love in this country. And real quick, back to that story. And I think I was 21 years old. Before I went, someone's like, hey, don't drink on the streets of Mexico. It's against the law. The first thing I did, we parked our car. We drove down from Orange County, just went to college, parked our car, popped a beer, and within, I think, 10 minutes, I was in the back of a Federale police truck in jail. Me and my buddy Pete, we didn't have any pesos on us, so we had to spend the night. And as soon as the sun started to shine, like the dawn started to show, the police officers were like, Pablo, Pedro, you guys ready to go? Gave us back our shoelaces, went back into society. Yeah. Quit drinking about 12 years later. All right. So I want to share with you guys today what's working for me. Now, when I first quit drinking, this was September 7th, 2014. Prior to that, everything was external, and the big one was alcohol. I was using alcohol to mitigate the internal discomfort within. So I quit drinking alcohol on that date. Thank goodness, and hopefully I never have to go through that again. But even after that, the majority of the techniques and tools and tricks that I used to help balance the emotions inside, and that's really what this is. We quit drinking, and then it's this beautiful journey of how to regulate the emotions internally without alcohol. So after September 7th, most of it was still external, such as hiking, biking, yoga, going out with friends, right? And all those, there's nothing wrong with any of those. All of those are like, here's alcohol. Those other ones are way up here, like in a different league. So much healthier, way more sustainable. Now, however, at about year 3.5, I had almost exhausted the benefits of all these external resources, and something inside me was saying, hey, Paul, let's stop doing. Let's stop taking so much external action, and how about taking a seat? And I've been buttoned up with stress a lot lately, okay? And usually I would the same thing with stress. I'd go for a run, go for a hike with my dog Ben. I miss him so much. That's the hardest part about this trip, is being in Mexico without my dog Ben. We'd go for a hike, we'd go for a run, we'd go do yoga, right? But I still was getting these signals that, Paul, it's time to sit. It's time to sit. So yesterday, I woke up, we had a webinar in the morning, and I just felt stress in my body. And let's back it up a little bit. October of 2018, I had a diagnosis of testicular cancer. And within a week after that, had an operation. You can guess what that operation was. And luckily, thank goodness, thank you, 5 checkups later, here I am cancer-free. Now, I'm a firm believer that it's your environment that signals these genes, or signals these representations on the external environment of discomfort. Addiction is one of them. And I was in such an environment of stress. Now I just do Recovery Elevator, but previously I had 4 businesses. I quit drinking, and I replaced that inner discomfort with external things such as work. I became addicted to work. I did. I quit drinking, and I put all my energies and resources into these 4 businesses. And on modern barometers of success, I did well, but my body paid the price. And even part of my body was removed. And so I knew, actually, April 15th, 2018, there was a day where definitively I knew that things had to change. I sold 3 businesses, and now I just have Recovery Elevator. And guys, there was even a time where I was like, what do I do with RE? I want to do this with more than everything in my life, but if I can't reach a homeostasis in the body, the mind, spirit, and the physical self, then I also have to give this up as well. And as I make this YouTube video, I understand this. If the body shows more signs of like, look, like this is not sustainable, I'll take a break from RE. I'll come back to it. Or I'll come back with something different later on down the road when the body says it's time to roll. Okay, so what has been working for me as of late, and I took a big step forward on this yesterday, is sitting. Okay. And so yesterday when I was experiencing this stress, similar to the environment that I got the cancer in, similar to the environment that the addiction took hold, I was like, oh no, what do I do? I don't want this. The mind is going crazy. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go sit. And earlier this week, I met some travelers who were gonna go check out this new market in a different mountain town outside of Oaxaca. And I really wanted to go, but my mind and body said, no, Paul, we can't go. And I went to this plaza and I sat. And what I did is this Mula Bandha breath technique. And with this technique, which I learned from Dr. Sue Morter at her retreats, and I interview her on episode 214 of my podcast. It's called Mula Bandha breath. And with this breath work technique, I was able to, you can't even see it. This is the chair. That's it. Look at this right here. I'll show you the chair real quick. This is my setup. I love Mexico. But I was able to take anxiety right here in the solar plexus area. That's where I felt anxiety that's where I felt my anxiety for 36 years, right? I was able to take my anxiety from right there with this breath technique. And now when I get anxiety, I feel it right here, but it's not as intense and it's met with love. I mean, just that alone, never having anxiety right here and feeling it here at about 10% of the intensity as before, like that's the miracle, right? I mean, that's a dramatic breakthrough. I mean, hell's to the yes. And that's a breakthrough that I had at year 4 or something away from alcohol, right? And when I quit drinking, anxiety is huge for so many people. And that was like what tipped me over the edge. I went to the hospital in Spain saying, I'm having a heart attack. I show up, he's like, dude, you're having an anxiety attack. Here's a benzo, quit drinking. 10 years later, I quit drinking. But anxiety was what pushed me over the edge. And about 90% of it went away by simply removing alcohol. However, with the breathing technique, about 8 more, or 90% of the remaining 10% left is gone. And now when I feel it, it's a little bit of anxiety right here, but like I said, it's met with love. So this breathing technique that I did for a long time yesterday is just this. So you squeeze the muscle that you use if you were to stop peeing, to stop the flow of urination. So squeeze that muscle about 80%, pull your shoulders back, and breathe up. And imagine it's coming from the center of the earth up in a straight line. Put your back straight, your head back straight, just like that, erect, and pull it from the bottom. And you're breathing right up the spinal cord. And what happens when you squeeze this muscle down there, it creates a friction with your pelvic, your abdominal muscles. It releases energy in there, which naturally gets released. And it takes about 24 hours for this energy naturally to go through your body. But we're speeding this process up with this breathing technique. We're breathing it, and actually we can make it go. And while this energy is going through, it grabs a hold of that excess energy that's no longer serving us, and it pulls us through as well. So breathe from the bottom of the earth, the center of the earth up, in, breathe it to about right here, about this level. And then on your exhale, let it sit here for a little bit. And in your mind, have it pull any excess information, energy that's no longer serving you. And then your exhale, shoot it straight up. Shoot it straight up to the sun. And on the inhale the next time, you're pulling from the sun up there, down here. Stop right here. Exhale, take a bunch of that garbage energy, that things that no longer serving you, breathe it out down there. And if you really want to get fun with this, ask for help from some beautiful trees. Ask for help for nature. I was in this plaza that had trees that are over 500, 600, 700, 800 years old. Did a Google search on some of these trees. They're old trees. They're doing a lot of energy work in this progress. So if you want to get woo-woo and mystic with it, I did yesterday. It really helped. Ask for support. Imagine those energies too, helping them pull this stuff out of you. It's all energy. And where the magic takes place is the stuff you can't see, the energy. And so partly when you're doing this breath, this technique, focus on the energy, focus on the space in between you and the wall, in between the bench and your back, in between you and the tree, because that's where the magic happens. That's where everything's getting pulled out of you. That's where it's going. So I did this breathing technique for a long time, and I'll be honest, it's a tough one to do from start to finish. You got to like learn the technique to start. That takes a lot of practice, and then I do it for like 5 to 10 minutes to really focus on it. I'm not at the point where I can do this for like 20 or 30 minutes straight. Building circuits consecutively for that long, that's a tough one. But I logged about 5 hours in this park, and the first half hour, I'll be honest with you, was tough. Like I said, there's about 100 other things going to that town where they had this cool market and buying artifacts and things like that. That would have been, I wanted to do that more. However, I knew that was more external action. My mind would have been going crazy. I said, Pablo, this is the time we sit. Pablo, you like that in Spanish? That's Mexico, that's a Spanish name. Pablo, right here. Pablo Church, that's the name. Pablo Church, heard it here first. I was like, Paul, we gotta sit. This is where we're going. We're gonna sit right now. So I just sat with it for about 5 hours. And the first half hour, like I said, sucked. I wanted to get out of the bench and go and run and walk away from this discomfort that I was feeling. But as Pema Chodron says, in fact, one of my favorite books is When Things Fall Apart, as Pema Chodron says, this is where we must go. And that's where I went yesterday. I went head first into the fear, into the environment where my addiction started, into the environment where the cancer that was manifested, right? I went into that environment and I sat with it. Now, I've done this before, but yesterday was the day where I did it with such clear intention and with such clear intensity. And I butted up fast and hard against it, and the first half hour was rough. I had my hands on the bench, and there was a couple times I was like, ugh, felt my feet on the ground just wanting to go, wanting to get up and leave. But I couldn't. I knew that's what I had to do. And after about a half an hour, and I was asking hard, pulling energies from everybody around, saying, hey, this isn't serving me. I don't want to feel like this. Let's get this out of here. But here's also what I did. I didn't do it with labels. I didn't say, hey, I'm having a bad day. I didn't say, hey, this sucks. I don't want this information. I don't want like, this sucks, like it's not here, it's killing me. I just said, hey, like it's here, that's okay. And I know it's here to teach me a lesson. The lesson most likely is to sit. Thank you for teaching me this lesson. I'm going to work past this and help me remove these energies that are no longer serving me. After about a half hour, I started to feel better. After about an hour, I started to feel really good. After about an hour and a half, I was so present in my feeling that I didn't want to leave. And this is where the magic happens. When the present moment feels so good that the energies are so clean and so coherent that all energy centers in the body from top to bottom are communicating with each other in a linear fashion. That energy is moving, our sun's moving here, when the energy is moving through us in such a clear, collaborative manner that you don't want to leave it. And that is when our body and mind are in a state of coherence, when it says, okay, Paul, we are no longer in a fight or flight state. Now is the time to create. Now is the time for the internal cohesion to take place. Now is the time for the gut, the body to digest food. Now is the time for ligaments or body parts in our body that need repairing to heal. Now is the time where we can take our energies off our addiction, which only exist in the past and only exist in the future. Now is the time when we're right here where the addiction in the past, the addiction in the future doesn't exist. Hang with me for a second on that one. Your addiction, when our energies right here in our addiction in the past, the story that brought us up to the addiction to right now, everything that's happened in the past, be it traumas, loneliness, resentments, guilt, all this stuff that's happened to us, shall we say, that story, when our mind is here, that's the addiction, right? That whole story from here to here is so uncomfortable that we need to drink, we need an external substance, and if you're watching this video, most likely it's alcohol. We use alcohol to dull this, okay, right? But what alcohol is doing it for us, so this is a good thing, is what it does, not sustainable. What I'll tell you, it worked, right? It takes our energies out of this and puts it right here, okay? And we reach a moment often in alcohol, and you know it's not alcohol, it's not working, it's the presence is what's working. But while in alcohol, at times you can reach such an intense moment of presence where you say, I don't need this shit anymore. Think about that. I don't need this shit anymore. I don't need the alcohol. What it is, you're in a moment of presence. And drugs and other things can get us there too. We say, but you'll get to a point you say, I don't need this shit anymore. And that's when the alcohol has actually brought you into such a state of presence. Now this is not sustainable, because then we're building another neural pathway we don't want to build, saying alcohol is what brought us here. Get rid of that. What we're doing, and what I'm learning yesterday, is I'm learning to sit and to build that internal coherence, that presence without alcohol. That is the name of this entire game right now. Okay, so energies in the past, energies in the future, right? How can I get out of this addiction right here? Your mind's thinking, how can I get out of this by putting myself in a different environment in the future here, which is right here. But the problem is this never arrives. This is never here because anything that you said here, if it does get here, the mind's already gone past that. The mind has already gone to a different spot. So this, no matter what, the mind will never create an environment that actually is right here. And that's okay, that's the mind job. It's a predictable machine. That's his job. It functions off predictability. It wants routine, right? And if your routine is everything back up into this, your mind is actually gonna think of ways to replicate this. Your brain is a balance sheet of everything that's happened in the past, and it functions best on predictability. So your mind is everything from this, even though your mind's like, this sucks, I don't want any more of this, but how can I get out of this into something better? But all the mind wants to do, because it likes routine, it likes the predictable known, what it's doing most likely on the unconscious level, it's reproducing this up here, right? But what we're missing is this. That's the sweet spot. And that's what I found. It took me about an hour, about 45 minutes to get there yesterday, the sweet spot of the present moment, where this doesn't exist and this doesn't exist. Your addiction is here, right here, and your addiction is right here. It's this story, and it's the story of how to get away from it. But your story, how to get away from it, is the same story as how you got into it. Trust me on this. So this and then this are the same, right? You can see the pickle. This and this are the same. The only time that we can depart from this and this is if we're right now. If we take our mental energies off of this and this, that alone can make them disappear, right? We don't run away from our addictions, they dissolve. And that's the last chapter in my book, The Cure to Addiction. I come straight out and say it. Unfortunately, there is no cure in tablet form to addiction. They dissolve. That's how you get rid of addiction. They simply go away. We put ourselves in a state of wholeness or inner peace where our energies are no longer directed on this or on this. Your addiction will simply dissolve. It will simply go away. When? We're right here. And you'll know this is happening when you start telling your story less, when you start talking about it less, when you get on the phone with your old friend, where you used to talk about all the things that led you up to this part right here, you're just rehashing it over and over, saying, hey, well, that's bullshit, oh, that's bullshit. You'll know you're making progress when you're on the phone with this person and you don't have that much to talk about anymore. And in fact, you might not even want to hang out with that person anymore. And it's okay to say, you know what? I'm making a lot of changes in my life right now, and those changes might be you. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. And so I encourage you to sit with this. This is fun stuff, right? And at first when it starts, it might not be so fun. But once you can get your mind and body into a homeostasis level where the last thing you want to do in the entire world is leave this moment, that's where anything is possible. That's when you're tapping into the quantum field, which is proving what you're seeking is also seeking you. That's when the magic happens, because what you're seeking here and here is no bueno. Let's go with that while I'm in Mexico. It isn't. But what you're seeking right here is an internal state of wholeness, cohesiveness, pure harmony, and it's a collaborative effort that's happening right now. So I'm in Oaxaca right now. Before I close off on this video, I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico right now, and let me share with you a cool story of how I got here. To be honest with you, I'm not fully certain what I'm doing in Oaxaca, Mexico. All right, but I think I got a good idea. And I think, right, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and the majority of them are wrong. So I'm also aware that why I think I'm here could be wrong. It's a narrative, it's a label. It's me putting my experience here into a box. Let's not really do that. But for shits and giggles, it's a fun story. Let's try it out. So I was in a meditation this past June. It was a good one. Fully centered and aligned and not thinking about anything. And I've been deepening with my meditation practice there for a while, about 1.5 years now. And if you're like, hey, I've been meditating for a while and I haven't had one of these where it feels so good, that's okay. Stick with it. It took me a while to get there. And during this meditation this past June, the word Oaxaca showed up definitively. Like there was no way to miss it. Oaxaca. Sat with it for a second and I let it go. As in I do with most thoughts in meditation, I simply let it go. It's what you do. You can't stop the mind. It's what it does. Like the lungs breathe, the heart pumps blood, the mind thinks, okay? You're gonna think in a meditation, but the trick is you just let it go. This was a big one, and it came from somewhere else. So, but I let it go. Next week, the same thing happens. Oaxaca just shows up. Let it go. After that, I start seeing Oaxaca in Netflix, on film and TV, hearing on radio. This happened twice. I was checking out at a grocery store, and the people behind me were talking about their experience in Mexico in a place in Mexico called Oaxaca. I had heard of Oaxaca before, never been here. It was never on the radar. And then my mom sent me a small wooden frog in a package all the way to Montana. And I opened the box up, and there's a little wooden frog. There's no note, there's no card, there's no instruction. Just a wooden frog. It's like this big. I put it on my table. Now my mom shows up a couple weeks later and says, hey Paul, you got your wooden frog. It's from Oaxaca. All right, okay, I get it. So the next day I started researching Spanish language schools, which I've always wanted to do a touch-up refresher course on Spanish. Just so you know, nobody speaks Spanish in Montana, pretty white state. I miss speaking Spanish. I used to own a bar in Spain, and I love the language. It's so much fun. So I'm doing two hours of Spanish instruction in the morning, and I'm working at a co-working space called Convivio here in the afternoon. Beautiful school, beautiful workplace. I'm on the roof right now, which they like unlock the door to go make a video up here. And so here I am, not fully certain of why I'm supposed to be here. And every day I wake up, I'm like, why am I supposed to be here, right? And I've had several small mini moments where I'm like, whoa, maybe that's it. In fact, I podcast about one where the guy I lived with for the first 3 weeks, he set the intention out there of he was drinking too much, and he started praying about it. And then he quemó los barcos, so he burned the ships, shall we say, in Spanish. And a YouTube video was sent his way. The next day, he picks up a guy who recently gave a YouTube video talk called "I've Been Duped by Alcohol." He picks up that same guy from the airport the next day. Could be a coincidence, maybe. But me and this guy, Rodolfo, we've had so many talks about this. And he's such a beautiful soul. I mean, right there I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool one. But yesterday, while I was doing this Mula Bandha breath technique, sitting, button up face to face, I think I got a glimpse of it. Paul, this is where you sit, buddy. This is where I sit. This is where I stop going external. This is where I fully deepen with that external glow that I have been feeling, that has been building since February 25th of this last year, after our Nashville convention that I had. I remember the plane was taking off, and I looked back and the sun just crept up over the mountain, and I had my camera, myself, and I'm like in the seat, like snapping photos, and I felt this glow right here. It was about the size of my pinky nail, and it went away for a couple weeks, but it felt good. And I was able to take my energies here and put it on here, and it felt good, but it went away. I didn't think anything of it, and then it showed back up, but it was that big. And then it went away for a couple weeks, been about this big, and then that big, and then this glow has been growing and growing and growing, and sometimes it's almost too much. It's the heart is opening. It's euphoric. It's like an ecstasy. It's better than any alcohol or any drug I've ever taken. I mean, to think that I could feel these physical sensations without alcohol or anything else is, I would have said no, not a chance. But what it's been the most beautiful thing that I think I've ever gone through up until this moment. And what I do, how I work with this, is I'm using it to take the energies out of the mind into right here. And I highly encourage you, because that's what's working for me big time right now, is anytime you feel discomfort in the body, take the energies out of the mind and place it here. Because when we do this, we go out of here or here, and we locate it here. So use the mind to find where the discomfort lives in the body. Let me say that again. Use the mind to find where the discomfort lives in the body. What we're doing, we're taking the flashlight of awareness, we're shining it on the discomfort in the body. And once that flashlight of awareness is shined on this area, saying, hey, hiding spot, I see where you're hiding, then there's no longer a hiding spot, because your mind knows where to check in the body. When there are no longer spots in the body for these energies, these traumas, these uncomfortable emotions to be stored, well, there's no more hiding spot. And when there's no more hiding spots in the body for these past experiences to be stored, we then start to deal with them on the face value when they happen. And when we're able to deal with these life experiences at face value when they happen, we reach a new level of homeostasis, a new equilibrium, more similar to every other animal that's living on the planet right now. And we see examples of this with birds, when they flap their wings, with ducks, with dogs. If they get in the coral, immediately they'll shake off this excess of energy. And you'll start to do this more at face time. We used to know how to do this perfectly when we were kids. We just cry, we scream, and then sometime in our life, a parent, a sibling, a teacher, somebody's like, hey, stop that, that's not acceptable. Well, here I am to say that is acceptable. We actually have to do this, because if we don't, then hello addiction, hello cancer, hello autoimmune disorder, hello all this uncomfortable shit we don't want and we don't need. And so that's what I encourage you to do, and so working for me is taking the mind energy here and placing it right here in the body, taking all energies off this and this and taking it right here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Guys, I'm more excited to make more videos for Recovery Elevator, because this is some of the stuff that we're going to be learning how to do in person through meditation at our retreats. And I'm working on making the meditation music and doing the voiceovers. And I might be starting a band, right? We're going to be performing these meditations live in person, where we collectively raise our energy levels to a moment where the present moment, the sweet spot of the moment that we're currently in right now, is so enjoyable, where we reach a state of homeostasis and wholeness, where the healing takes place secondary. It's always secondary, where it happens collectively. We all do it. Because individually, when we're meditating, it could be like, oh, this sucks, the mind's going on and on and on and on. But collectively together, you can almost be enveloped in an energy field from somebody else. And eventually we'll all be on one energy sphere, satoric field, shall we say, where it's just gonna feel good and hearts are gonna open. And so I encourage you to get outside your comfort zone and attend one of these in-person retreats. They are so much fun. We've got Denver, June 11th to the 13th, Denver, Colorado. And then we've got our Recovery Elevator retreat this October 8th to 18th in Costa Rica. Half of it is in the Cloud Forest in Monteverde, and the other half is at the beach in the Guanacaste region. We've got the whole hotels to ourselves. We've got workshop space built in, and it is incredible. And I can see the clouds moving. Let me see if I I actually see the clouds moving behind me. It's just so beautiful. So beautiful. I can see them. Wow. Use the mind, locate the body, hug that discomfort with breath, with that flashlight of awareness. This and this disappears. That's how powerful this is. But you're gonna have to trust me with this, because this is gonna say, disappear, disappear, pa, that's not possible. Trust me. If you're right here, disappears, just goes away. That's the power of this. It simply disappears. Love you guys.